Welcome, everybody, to Frankly Speaking Canes Football. I'm here with co-host Robert Powell. We're so grateful to have you in the new 2024 year. Go Canes. We're going to discuss the upcoming game, which is Saturday at 3:30, and how we see it playing out. We'll discuss briefly the results of the Florida State Georgia Tech game, which I'm sure everybody's going to be all excited about, talking about what happened up there in Dublin, Ireland. So as we get started, I want to go ahead and share my screen with Robert on some things that we put together for this game, and we'll start here. Robert, what I've done, can you see the screen, Robert?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
what I've done is I've laid out basically the players versus each other for the University of Miami side and the University of Florida side. There's a couple interesting factors. One of the things that I also did was I put together an algorithm, which we got the results that gave us some data and analytics based on the current roster and snaps per team and the different styles of play, who would be favored and what. So we'll get a score with that. But you'll see here our starting lineup is projected to be Sam Brown at the left boundary wide receiver. We got our running back Damian Martinez, Restrepo in the slot. On the right side, we're going to have Jacoby George, and we're going to have Mark Fletcher, which is great news, Rob. I just wanted to share that with you. It's confirmed he was playing full go in the scrimmages. So he was looking fantastic. The guy was playing well. He's 100% go. I don't know how much they're use him, but I think that's fantastic. So as we look, we're going to also go over here, and you're going to look on the left side is Florida's left cornerback. The guy that's most likely to line up against Sam Brown is going to be Devin Moore for the Gators, and then Sharif Dennison is going to be the star player for Florida, kind of like that hybrid linebacker that's going to be in coverage, more of a corner than a linebacker. Then Jordan Cassell is going to be the free safety. He's over here. And then you've got the strong safety is going to be Asa Turner. And Jason Marshall is going to be the right cornerback that's going to line up. The good news also is that we're going to have tight end Arroyo is going to be ready to play, and so is Riley Williams, who played last year. And you'll see Arroyo up here at the top. So Jalen Rivers is going to be left tackle. Left guard, there's still some, it's either going to be Samson Okanoa or Matthew McCoy. There's some debate as to who it's going to be. We're going to have Zach Carpenter as a center, right guard Inez Cooper, and Francis Malinois is going to be the right tackle. And you'll see the lineup for these guys in the jack position, which is that hybrid linebacker, who's also a D end. You're going to have for Florida, Cersei, TJ. You're also going to have Joey Jackman. I don't know if you can see him. He was an addition in the portal along with Grayson Howard, who's going to be their middle linebacker. And you're going to have that. Their D tackles are Cam Jackson and Boone. Now, you saw, I sent you some information on their D tackles. They average 6'6", 305 pounds. There's some big boys up front. Now, I want to get your opinion. In the Florida State game, we had our guy that was there, the 6'6", 300 pounds, and he got pushed around pretty well because of leverage. But I wanted to get your thoughts on the starting lineups as you see them. What are your thoughts about the starting lineups?
Well, it is as we expected, right? There are no real surprises there. You see a couple of folks that are new, um, and I think that they're going to contribute as we all expect. I just want to comment about the overall defensive line on the Florida side. Yeah, the size is there, right? And I'm sure there's some athleticism, but as you pointed to, as we saw this weekend, there's more to it than just the size and their athleticism, right? It's the schemes, it is the blocking and the offensive line that's on the other side of the ball, it's the talent of the running backs, it is the whole package of play calling that is going to be able to expose some of the weaknesses. Definitely, I mean, Florida, if you look at them from last year, the challenges were across the board, right? definitely on the line, definitely in the back end. So we're going to see if indeed they have solved those issues. I thoroughly believe that regardless of the size of the defensive line, Mario is going to want to pound the ball, right? I think that that's how we're going to get Cam started. They're going to force those linebackers up. We're going to see just how good that defensive line is. I think that you're going to see a lot of running. Um, but it is going to be an interesting matchup. Nothing is given. We saw that this past weekend with the contest that we saw in Dublin. So it is going to be interesting to see exactly how this actually unfolds. My number one concern with Miami, and I shared this with you, Frankie, earlier
Mhm.
this week, is that to come out of the gate, this team, for the most part, hasn't gelled yet, right? It's going to take a couple of games before the quarterback, running back, the offensive line, so on and so forth, get to the point where they're clicking on all cylinders. The good news is that I think that they're practicing against probably one of the better and deepest defensive fronts in the ACC with what they practice against in terms of what we have. And I know we'll talk about that later. And I think that's a positive. I think that to be able to practice against better talent or talent that will be equal to or better than what you'll see in real life is is a plus. So those are my thoughts. And I know that we have an opportunity here to cover other things, but I I believe it's going to be a challenge. Running the ball is going to be key, and I think what Cam Ward brings to the table is going to be able to unlock some of the success that we're expecting.
I totally agree with you, Rob. The thing that it's not a concern, but it's an observation. Florida State goes up to Dublin. They were pretty heavy in the transfer portal. As you know, there's been a lot of debate and speculation about they're a heavy team on the transfer portal, and they've not really filled in very strongly with recruits. So they've got basically we've got 43 new players on our team coming into this year. They've got a larger number. But the key thing is, what did we notice? DJ Ukulele, as I call him, because I can't pronounce his last name.
Just say
DJ,
DJ. Just
yeah,
say DJ.
DJU. He came in and it's his first start with a new team. And while he didn't cost them the game, he couldn't carry the team with him on their shoulders to win the game. So when they crowded the line of scrimmage and they decided to take the run away from Florida, I think it was 14 out of his 19 passes were within 3 yards. So I think one of the things that we have to, the reason I bring it up is there's a parallel. We got Cam Ward now. He's a great quarterback, and in my opinion, much more accomplished than DJ, but it's his first start. So it's going to be interesting how they game plan it. I agree with you. It's going to be a heavy dose of the run, and I also agree that Florida's going to look at that and they're going to know going in they got to stop the run. Now they got two linebackers that they picked up in the transfer portal that are tremendous linebackers at run stopping. Their weakness, though, because last year Florida's defensive line was not very good. They got run on pretty heavy. I think they averaged close to 200 yards a game
Hmm.
that they were giving away. But the two linebackers they think solved the problem. But the two linebackers have a weakness, and their weakness is they're very poor in coverage. So if you get the
Yeah.
tight end, you slip them out, you slip out the running back, you're going to see there's some damage that could be done there. So I think it's going to be a battle of the line of scrimmages. Really is going to be the key. I also think our wide receivers have a favorable matchup against Florida's DBs, even though they've kind of shored that up a little bit. So I think that that's going to be another key component to the game. How are they going to play? Are they if they start to have to load up the box and sneak up the safeties to stop the run? I think Cam's going to have a big day, and the tight ends will have a big day. So I think the first thing Miami's going to have to do to quiet the crowd, to get Cam into the game, is to start off running the ball. Good news is we got Fletcher back 100%, and we've got Damian Martinez. Fletcher 6'2", 230. Damian is 6 foot at 230. So you've got two power backs that are going to be in that backfield. And I also believe if Past is predictor of future, Mario's going to go with experienced guys. So even though we have a lot of young kids that are freshmen, you're going to see the nod is going to go to the experienced player,
Absolutely.
even
Yeah.
even if these guys have big upside, because mistakes are going to be critical, turnovers are
Yep.
going to be critical in the game. So you're going to go with the known commodity versus something new because of the stress and what have you. So I think you're going to see a lot of that. That's why I'm not. I think you'll see AJ as a running back. You'll see Fletcher. I'm not too sure you're going to see a lot of Chris Johnson. Maybe depending on how the game goes, they might spot him in here and there for change of pace if we're up on the score. But if it's a tight ball game, I think they're going to keep it close to the vest, and you're not going to have any of those guys that are going to come in there. What are your thoughts on that?
So we both agreed and aligned on the observation or what we perceive to be heavy run.
Mhm.
And I will go to the other side of the equation on this thing and say this. I would not be surprised if the first play out of the gate is a Sam Brown curl, fake, go long, and throw a bomb. First play out of the gate. First play out of the gate. To show right away, we'll throw it too now.
Mhm.
To get those safeties, to get those corners to respect those routes. Because I also believe that a threat of a throwing game will keep the back end honest and
Right.
allow the running game to happen.
I totally
Because
agree. I
because you
totally agree.
cannot say that this team, Florida, say, oh, we're not going to respect your throw. You better not do that.
Mhm.
Cam Ward will throw it. And if he breaks loose and you crowd that box, he'll pick up 15, 20 yards running the ball.
Yes, I totally agree.
So I think what I just kind of summarized there is the fact that we have the talent and the ability to come at you either way. And once we establish what you're going to play, we can counteract that going in the opposite direction. You stack the box, great. We'll throw man on man coverage.
I totally
All
agree.
right.
I totally agree. Now, I've got some other observations that I wanted to share with you on exactly what you were talking about. There's a couple key things that struck me. In the press conference with Shannon Dawson, he made a couple comments that were pretty insightful. Number one, for the first time in I don't know how many years, we can run, throw, short, screens, deep, intermediate, range passes, run. We can do all of it with the same stable of players. Here's what I
Mm,
think you're going to see a lot of 12 man. I think you're going to see dual tight ends in the game. I think you're going to see Riley Williams along with Arroyo because both are pass catchers, both
mm-hmm.
are run blockers. I think you're going to see that sprinkled in. So if you got those two tight ends lined up and you still got the three wide receivers because you're just taking the fullback out and you're basically you got the running back. So you've got that set. You've got a lot of versatility. So these guys, when they see that formation, it could be a heavy run, or it could be they could leak those tight ends out of the back. I mean, out into the middle of the field, or even leak the running back. And the problem that they have is their linebackers are terrible in coverage. So if they load up on the box, you're gonna they could either blow them away by using the double tight end and basically challenge them, or sneak behind them and toss the pass. So I think that's going to be very critical in the way they play as well. Now I'm going to go on to this next slide. I don't know if you can see it. Um, but basically it has in it, let's see here if I can close the window a little bit. I don't know if you can see it here. Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
perfect. All right, and we'll go to the other side of the slide in a minute. Basically what you have up here is, and again, we can't open this up because it's not working properly, but you've got basically the predictors. Miami is obviously predicted to win by 2.5 points. Now, if this was on a neutral field, it would probably be a 6-point game. The swamp is no joke. That's going to be
No.
loud. They're going to be using the headset for the first time, the in-helmet communication. That's not going to mitigate all the noise, like you mentioned in our conversations before. It may mitigate 30% of it or 40%. Make it, but you're still going to have to use hand signals and so forth. But getting to that, I think where the difference is going to be, and I want to get to this too over here, is in the rankings on the offensive line. Florida has a highly ranked offensive line, despite the weakness on the right side and some of the issues they've been having. And their D line is a pretty good D line. Their running backs, believe it or not, their stable of running backs, apparently to some, they appear are deeper than what we have, which is hard to believe. But and their quarterback, and we'll get to that. Mertz, Graham Mertz he's efficient. He's a 72% passer with passes within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. He can throw it deep, but if you move him a little bit, if you move him from right to left, he's not a good passer throwing to his left. So pressure is going to be a big part of it. Florida, on the flip side, is going to they're going to attempt to do the same thing Miami is, control the line of scrimmage, run the ball, set them up, because they know we've got a lot of pass rushers and pass specialists. And we may be able to get to them with 4 players. It may take an extra blitzer, maybe not, but and our weakness and it's not because the players, it's just it's an unknown commodity, is our defensive backfield, our secondary. And they've got some players on offense. They've got a couple receivers similar to Restrepo, one that's very quick. And I'll bring out his name over here as well. Let's see here. Let's see. Ellis. Let me see if I can move him over. Let's see if you can see him here. Yeah, Eugene Wilson. I'm sorry, not Ellis. Eugene Wilson. And they brought in a transfer, Elijah Badger from Arizona State. He's a big kid. He's a good ball player. Khalil Jackson is also a tall guy, about 6'2". They're big targets. So they've got some good receivers. And then this guy, Shamiri Dyke, came from Wisconsin. He was a big target for Graham Mertz before, Graham Mertz. So this is going to play into him as well. This is going to give him an advantage. And on the defensive side of the ball, our starting safeties are going to be Marquise and Michelle Powell, Marquise Williams, Daryl Porter on one boundary, Damari as the slot guy, and I think Hill is going to play the opposite boundary. But we're hearing a lot of rumors that Federic, the defensive back, the true freshman, is going to get a lot of snaps. So he's going to be in the mix. And what we're hearing is that he challenged a lot of our receivers, wouldn't back down, and he's got the body frame to be a really, really tough player on the either the slot or the boundary, actually for the boundary. So if you look at their offensive line, the other thing that they have is they have a massive offensive line. Ruben Bain's going to have to go out with, Austin Barber, who I believe is 6'7". Simeon Barrow's going to have to, Keneal Harris, which is another big left guard. He's about 6'4". The center's about 6'3", 300 and change. The right tackle, he's also very large. I think he's 6'7" also, or I think he's about 6'7", 300 pounds. And then you have Damian George, which is going to be very interesting to see how we handle that. And that's going to have to be Clark. So our starting lineup on defense is going to be Barrow, Clark, Elijah Austin. I think it's actually going to be Barrow is going to be the starting.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, not Barrow. I think it's actually going to be Robert.
The guy from
the guy that was injured, who came back, that had 2 ligaments in each one of the feet. They got injured. Messidor.
Yeah,
Messidor.
Yeah, Messidor.
Messidor is going to be I think Messidor is going to start at DN along with Bain, and then you're going to have Tyler Barron come in, and you're going to have Tyler Barron, and you're going to have also Elijah Alston come in that as part of that rotation, and
I don't
Francis in the middle.
see I don't see the guy from Michigan State.
Yeah,
Oh,
he is.
there he is.
Simeon
Simon.
Darrell.
Okay.
He's
Yeah,
he's
I'm sorry.
he's
I'm
the
sorry,
starting
Simeon.
DT, and
Yeah,
Clark
right.
is going to be the
Okay.
starting nose tackle from NC State. So you got those
Mm-hmm.
two guys plugging up the middle with Malinois and Wesley Blassane. Wesley's going to be covering these guys up here. I got Wesley up here. So let me just see something here. You don't see anything, right? Did I lose?
No,
You lost the screen. Okay.
I
Let me
don't see
close this.
anything.
All right, that's fine. So now we're going to go over to um, now that we got the defense, we're going to go over here to the what I call the Kool-Aid side, talking about Florida State. So that was something, but I wanted to go here and also share with you the surprise impact players for the game that I wanted to pick out. I think the surprise impact player for the game might be LJ McCray for Florida. He's a defensive end, a 5-star, who could, if they don't pay attention to him, could give us a hard time. He's going to be in the rotation. And then the other impact player would be DJ Langway, who's their 5-star quarterback. And he would get in the game if one of two scenarios presented.
Why you think he will be an impact player?
Well, he's a
I
he's a
think
he's a
I think
true
that
dual threat.
I understand, but if the game is tight, do you think they'll bring him in?
No,
No,
I think
no.
here's what scares me about him. Here's what scares me about him. I don't know if you remember, we played Florida State at the um, at our place
Mm-hmm.
at Joe Robbie, and we were playing Florida State, and the starting quarterback got nicked up. It may have been Blackman at the time. I'm not sure. He got nicked up, so they put in Travis, um,
Yeah.
right, and
Uh-huh.
he started to move the ball because he was a true dual threat. But then he got hurt. He got nicked up, and they put Blackman back in. When they brought him in as fresh legs and a fresh set of eyes, he was actually starting to outplay Blackman. So sometimes when they bring in a fresh quarterback, he can lead a comeback. It can be a thing, but I don't know that we'll see him. I do think we'll see a lot of LJ McCray. I think we're going to see a lot of him. But as
Yeah.
far as
I just think that if the game is close
mhm.
and their starting quarterback is what he
oh,
is, and I believe he is who he is, they're not going to pull him.
oh no, that would be
They're
crazy.
not going to pull him because if they pull him and put in this other guy, to me,
Yeah.
that's a sign that something's wrong.
Yeah, oh yeah. It would be that would be if they're behind 21 points.
Yeah.
If it's getting away from them, they'll do that. Now their two running backs is Johnson, Montrell Johnson. He's a beast. He's a really good running back, but he hurt his knee. They had surgery during the summer. Actually, during fall camp, he had meniscus repair work that was done. So it's questionable whether he's going to play or not, but he might play. And then the second team back for him would be Trayon Webb, who's a freshman, a 4-star out of Florida. Really good back, but he's got very little snaps. And then you've got the issue with being able to pass block, which is a big issue. So that's something to consider as well. That's
Yeah.
another thing that has to be considered.
So just a couple of things. I don't think is that Wesley's picture? I don't know if that's Wesley's
Where?
picture, but either way,
Oh no,
per
this is
se.
not Blasane's picture. This
Okay,
is
that's what I thought.
Trayon Webb. Wesley's the guy who's going to cover him
Okay,
by
okay,
the weak
good.
side
Because I said,
linebacker.
wait a minute, that doesn't look like.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a guy, Wilson, on
Mhm.
Florida's team. I've been reading a little bit about him. He's supposed to be the truth now. I don't see him in your
Wait a minute.
pictorial here.
Let's see here. Elijah, what position? Yeah, Eugene Wilson. He's right here.
Oh,
Eugene
okay.
Eugene Wilson is the guy that can play in the backfield.
Yeah,
He can
he
play
is.
in the slot. He can return
Mm-hmm.
kicks. He's
Okay.
quick. He's fast. He's their number one receiver. He's Restrepo with speed. Okay, maybe not as good as finding the zone as Restrepo, but he's definitely a threat. He's their number one guy. But they brought in
Okay.
this guy. Elijah Badger, who's a big target and who's also got a relationship with the quarterback. and they brought in Chamiri Dyke, who's also that's the guy that's got the relationship with the quarterback, actually. Elijah comes from Arizona. Both those receivers are good receivers, but we have a stronger receiver core than they do. They've got a more established defensive backfield. But by the way, they ranked like 130th in the defensive backfield last year. They've got some players that they brought in, and their run stopping again, it was way at the bottom. They had their big issue was linebacker. The Florida State game, if you look at the Florida State game against Georgia Tech, one of the things if you look at and analyze it play by play on those running plays, they had their defensive backs and their safeties 15 to 20 yards off the line of scrimmage. And
That's
they were
not good.
supposed to shoot the gaps, Rob. They weren't shooting the gaps. When the run plays were coming, they were lined up so far back, they weren't shooting the gaps, and they didn't want the contact. And if these safeties for Florida are making tackles, we're having a great game. That means we're getting past the second line and the linebackers. So that's going to be very interesting. That's going to be very interesting. So what are your thoughts on the defensive matchup?
I think you pretty much nailed it. I just think Wilson is going to be the key.
He is.
Because as you stated, they're going to move him around.
Oh yeah.
You're going to see him as running back, receiver, slot. So he's going to be pretty much army switch knife to their offense. I think we've talked about our defensive backfield. Now the positive is our defensive front, the front seven, is not going to give that quarterback a lot of time.
No.
It's not. He's going to be under pressure. He will be under pressure. And that's a positive for our defensive backs, right? And I think that our defensive coordinator does a good job in disguising our defensive schemes. So, granted, Florida's quarterback, smart, talented, but I think his weakness is his mobility. And I think you're going to see that he's not going to be able to move a lot. And in today's college football, you must have a level of mobility. You must. And I'm not talking, just a little bit. You got to be able to escape, right? I think one of the differences, and we'll talk about this in a moment, between the Georgia Tech Florida State game was mobility of the Georgia Tech quarterback and the non-mobility of Florida State's quarterback. I personally think that probably was one of the top 2 or 3 reasons why there was a big difference in that game. Georgia Tech did not respect the legs of DJ. They did not. So, but anyway, coming back to this, that's going to be a plus if we're able to get pressure on him and force him to make throws or decisions that he doesn't want to make.
Now, I will share this with you. He was sacked 38 times last year.
Oh, well, there you go.
Okay. Now,
there you go.
Yeah, he now when he
and if you're playing 12 games, that's an average of 3 sacks a game.
Exactly.
That's
and
a
I
lot.
will tell you this. He was 72% completion within 3 to 5 yards, but also within 2 seconds. In other words, when he got the ball off quickly, he was at 72%. When he had to hold the ball longer than 2 seconds, that dropped down to 56%. So that was a big difference. So they're going to have to, and he's going to do these dumps, these screens, these bubble screens, all these little types of screens that they're going to throw at him. So
you can't win with those, though. You can't win with those. You need to be able to have time to stretch the field, and that's mainly because the offensive line can't protect.
Yes, yeah, and their offensive tackle, who started last year, who was a turnstile, they moved him to guard. He was the right tackle. Their right side of the offensive line is where they have weakness. That's where they have some pretty dangerous situation there as far as stability. The left side is pretty strong. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they shore that up. Now, I do have for you I put it in a little simulator, an algorithm to look at what the algorithm did is it took the transfer portals, the existing roster, the number of snaps, the individual PFF grades for the individual players, and it came out with a prediction. And I'm going to share that with you in a little bit for the game. Any more thoughts on the matchup between their offense and our defense?
No, no, I think that both teams will challenge the back end of the defenses. I think that Eugene Wilson is going to be a problem if we don't get pressure
I do agree.
on the core quarterback. Yeah.
I totally agree.
I think we'll be prepared for those short dumps. I think that as soon as those guys catch the ball, those screens, they're going to get tapped. You know,
Mhm.
our linebacking core is very physical, very athletic. I just think if he has too much time, the back end is going to be a problem
I totally
for
agree.
us, and I believe for them as well,
Mm-hmm.
because Cam Ward sees the field, and
Yes.
and he creates on the run. He creates on the run. So we will see.
I'm going to share with you the predictive model.
Got
Okay.
it.
All right. Basically, what it is it took all the snaps from 2023. It took all of the players on the roster, the change in players, the portal additions, and it kind of discounts those recruits that aren't really going to see playing time. So if you look, we're in the blue and Florida's in the gold. Okay. And it's going to show you offensive position strength. At quarterback, we have an advantage. You can see that we score about a 9. They're at about an 8. At running back, it's giving them an advantage of about a 9, and we're at an 8. And it's smack even on the offensive line based on
Mm.
the years of production. So while I would have thought we had an advantage at O-line, it's telling me here through the predictive model that Florida's O-line is just as good as ours. It's even. It's basically even. So here's the bar
That's
graph.
interesting. That's interesting that they said that the running back position favors them.
Yeah, because that they're starting Montrell Williams had a great season last year with them. He's hurt though, and so and we'll get into the
Wait. He's hurt. So is this analysis,
but he
does
may
that
play.
include?
In other words, he's got
Oh,
meniscus. He may
oh,
play. He may play
okay,
I don't know how well he'll be. Then
okay.
you're gonna hear here's the bar graph comparing the position group strengths between Miami and Florida across various key positions. Okay, you can see quarterback here. Okay, position
Mm-hmm.
group running back is here. We're in the blue. So quarterback, we have an advantage. Running back, they have an advantage. O line, we're even. But D line, you see the advantage on the D line? See it right here?
Mm-hmm.
Defensive line, we score a 9. They're at an 8. We're even at linebackers based on the transfer portal. Okay.
But
Cornerback,
man,
huh?
yeah. No. I'm just at a quick glance. It's only two areas that we outperform them.
We outperform them at quarterback
Yep.
and at D line. And at
Wow.
special teams, they outperform us according to this metric. At safeties, they outperform us because we got new safeties. At cornerbacks, they outperform us. Okay, at various key locations. So if you look over here on this side, you're going to see the quarterback comparison. Miami, the addition of Cam Ward gives Miami a dynamic dual threat with proven experience. Florida's quarterback, bolstered by highly recruited recruits, offers a strong passing game and leadership on the field. Running back, Damian Martinez, it says enhances the running gap, but Florida's depth, what they're saying is that Florida has a slight edge based on their depth, not the one-on-one, okay? Offensive line, the addition of McCoy and Zach Carpenter solidified Miami's offensive line, making it one of the strongest in the ACC. But Florida's offensive line is highly rated, particularly in run blocking and making critical component of their offensive success. D-line, it talks about with the addition of Tyler Barron and Simeon Barrow and C.J. Clark is one of the is formidable, likely one of the best in the nation. Now they brought in Joey Slackman, who's a really good addition for them to the D-line, making it a solid, capable unit. Linebacker comparison with Francis Mauigoa and Miami at an edge in the linebacker position, an edge in the linebacker. Additional depth give Miami an edge. With the addition of Grayson Howard, though, their linebacker core is strong, offering good run support. Coaching, Miami's head coach brings experience, proven track record in building competitive teams, especially with a strong focus on the defense. And then we're going to go over here. Florida's head coach has a strong offensive minded and has successfully led the team to key victories. Offensive coordinator. They're talking about Shannon Dawson. He's known for innovative play calling, adapting strategies, leveraging team strength. Florida's OC is a solid understanding of the SEC and excels at maximizing potentials of the players. D coordinator going with Guidry has a reputation of building aggressive, resilient defenses. Florida's DC is experienced managing defensive unit. Special teams, basically the same thing. Overall strengths and weaknesses. Miami has a slight edge at quarterback, 9-8. You see the bar graphs. Running back, is 8, UF is 9, so it's a slight advantage there. Offensive line are evenly matched at 9 and 10 because they're both at 9 out of 10. Miami's stronger due to key transfers, so we're stronger on the D line. Both teams are strong and equal scores 8-10. So here it's saying that the score is kind of equal on the linebackers. Cornerbacks, is 6 for both positions, while UF. So the secondary, they're basically saying UF is the secondary. You know, that's for sure. Predictive score, and this is the fun part. So predictive, based on the detailed analysis of both teams, including the impact of recent transfers, here's a predictive score for each quarter. They're predicting. You're gonna like this. They're predicting that Miami's going to be up 7-3 in the first quarter. Miami's strong defensive line and quick start on offense give them an early edge. Second quarter, it'll be Miami 10-7. Florida's going to inch back. Both teams start to find their rhythm, and Miami balanced offense continues to push ahead. Third quarter, Miami scores 7 points. Florida scores 10. Florida's adjustments at halftime allow them to close the gap, especially utilizing their strong running game. Fourth quarter, Miami scores 7. Florida scores 7. Both teams score evenly in the final quarter as they battle it out, but Miami holds on to their lead. And the final predictive score is Miami 31, UF 27. And it says the final score reflects a closely contested game, giving Miami a slight edge in key positions, particularly on defense, allowing them to score narrowly, score a narrow victory. Yes, the conclusion analysis provided are based on a combination of the 2023 rosters, the notable transfer additions that might have highlighted for the 2024 season. They include players who were either already on the team in 2023 or were added through transfer portal, as well as incoming recruits who are expected to make an immediate impact. Here's a quick recap. The core analysis considers the performance and depth of key players from the 2023 season. This includes players who were standouts on their respective teams who are expected to continue being an impact in 2024. Transfer additions. The analysis also incorporates players who have transferred to Miami or Florida in the offseason. The players such as Cam Ward, Tyler Barron, Joey Slackman have assessed based on their previous performance and the role they are likely to play with their new teams. Impact of recruits. While primary focus is on returning players, transfers, highly rated recruits are expected to contribute immediately are considered overall in the overall analysis. The conclusions are drawn with the assumption that the players will perform at a level, blah, blah, blah. The approach is provided looking at prospective teams might match up in the season. There's one player that we didn't talk about that I think could be a wild card, and that's Elijah Lofton. Because here's what I'm thinking. If they place him in the backfield as a fullback, who can also play tight end, who can also split out at wide receiver, if you're starting to loosen up those linebackers, there isn't a linebacker. None of Florida's linebackers can cover that guy out of the backfield. It ain't going to happen. And if he's got to sit back and block, he's a fantastic blocker. So I think of the freshman, you may see him with the two tight ends. You could see all three of them on the field at one time.
Mm-hmm.
You could see
Mm-hmm.
two wide receivers, two tight ends, and two backs. You could see him lined up with um, Martinez. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I totally agree. Mario made it very, very clear that if you're going to be in the backfield, you must be able to block. We saw in spring, both you and I attended the spring game. This guy, he is well advanced to be a freshman. Coming out of the backfield, catching the ball, running the ball, lining up at tight, because he was actually recruited as a tight end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's used to contact, he's used to blocking, but man, he is very versatile, and I would not be surprised at all to see him coming in at the position that you just mentioned on in the backfield, because it may look like he's back there to block and he catch a screen,
Exactly.
right?
And Rob, he'd be devastating as a on a screen. You got a guy
Mm-hmm.
that's 240 pounds, 6'1", if that downhill. I mean, he was the number one running back in the spring. Remember that
Mm-hmm.
because everybody
Yeah,
was
that's
out
right.
injured. He was the number
Everyone
one
was
running back.
injured.
Yep.
That's right.
So I totally agree with you. What do you think about the computer score 31-27?
Um, I, it's interesting. I kind of like it. I know that we're not giving our predictions just yet.
Mhm.
It definitely satisfies that 2.5 point
Yeah.
lead. The rationale is there. I think what's missing is the crowd. I think home field. I think what's missing is the fact that we haven't played together as a team yet.
I agree.
And this is a tough environment. If we would have had a couple of easier games and then go to Florida, but the good news is that with transfer portal guys, their experience, right? Cam has played in some pretty lousy, he played in Oregon, he played, in
But
some
does it
pretty
translate to
lousy.
the first game? In other words, I agree with you, and here's why. Here's why I agree with you. DJ had to learn a new offensive system. Okay, completely. Cam is learning the same type of system. He was in that run and shoot type system. That it's the same type of air raid system that Dawson runs, Shannon Dawson. So it's not very new to him. The wide receiver that they brought in, Brown, actually worked with Dawson in Houston. So all he had to do is learn a few different, slightly different things coming in, but it's basically the same system. So on the offensive side of the ball, and Damian Martinez, he had to learn a new system as running back, but the running back's probably the easiest thing to pick up the system. It's basically pass blocking, learning how to run between the blocks, and if they're going to be doing zone blocking, if they're going to be pulling the guards, that's going to be interesting to see what type of blocking schemes they utilize as well. So I think that the transition for them is a lot easier than it would be for instance, Florida State with a whole new offense for DJ. I could see him getting messed up. But when you're talking about that, what do you do in that situation to settle your guy? You run the ball.
Yep,
If we can't run the
exactly.
ball, it's gonna be a long. Let me put it this way: whoever can't run the ball is going to have a very long day.
Yep, I totally
Whichever team,
agree.
yeah, whichever team. And so I'm predicting that Miami is going to run the ball for over 230 yards. That's and
Ooh,
yeah,
wow.
I'm predicting, and I think that it'll be probably. And the other thing that we can't project, you and I can't project, which is going to be probably 30% of this game, is we don't know how the backups are going to play. I don't know how the backups are going to play on the defensive side of the ball for UF because they're gonna have to do what we're doing. We built a lot of depth on that D line. I don't know how much
Mm-hmm.
depth they have on their D line. So their D line is going to have to, if they've got depth, they'll be able to match us with intensity. If they don't have depth, that offensive line should start to take control, and vice versa. If we don't have the depth on the D line, or people get injured or something happens, heaven forbid, it would be the same situation, because it's going to be, they're going to play it close to the vest. I'll be honest with you, I don't think they're going to take a lot of shots down the field. I think they're going to want to control the ball. They're going to want to play a Georgia Tech style football game. They'll throw the ball intermediate, medium, maybe a couple long shots when they have them, but they're going to try and have 8-minute drives to take the crowd out of it. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I totally agree. Uh, it's just that they know they cannot underestimate or go into this thinking that Cam can't. Cam can throw the ball down deep. He can, improvise. He will and can run the ball if necessary. This is not your typical Miami quarterback that we've had
No,
over the past
no,
years,
not at all.
right? If it breaks down, he's going to pick up 7, 10, 15 yards.
That's all you need. You don't
Yeah,
need
and
them to
that's
pick up any more than
huge.
that. That's it.
That's huge. So guess what? You got to respect that.
Yes.
You got to respect that. You
Yes.
know, even if the respect is you got a linebacker that's spying them, well, that's a linebacker that you ain't got to deal with,
Hmm.
right?
No, I totally
So,
agree. I personally, I don't know if you know, Manny Navarro picked the game, and he picked Miami to win 34-21. He picked a
wow.
14. Yeah, I mean, he just thinks that Miami's offense. Remember now, last year these guys averaged 28 points a game. We actually
Mm,
averaged 31 with TVD, believe it or not. But they're playing in the SEC. I mean, that's, if you average 28 points in the SEC, I give you props. That's kind of like averaging 31 in the ACC. So that's the reality. They gave up 24, I think it was 26 points. I think it was 26 points or 27 points a game on the defensive side of the ball, or maybe 28 as an average.
mm.
So that so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Any other thoughts on the game?
No, no other thoughts. I think you did a great job in pulling all this information together. I know you spent a lot of time researching and analyzing and putting this, but this is extremely impressive. So really, really appreciate you doing this. But no, I think that you've covered everything. I think that the only thing that's left is where we think this thing is going to end.
Well, let's talk about Florida State before we go, real quick. No, I listen. I watched the game. They had a YouTube video which was on the Florida State, one of their bloggers or YouTubers, which was fantastic. They actually went and broke down each individual play 2 and 3 times, and
Mm,
they got out muscled. They got their defensive line got pushed around, but what really got exposed in that game were their linebackers. And I think the key in this game is going to be linebacker play,
mm,
because if your D line keeps your linebackers clean and they can come up and stuff the run, and they don't have to worry about the pass going over the top, then you're going to be fine. But if all of a sudden, what we got to be careful is we got to stuff their run and challenge them to throw, and challenge them to throw and not give him time to throw, because he's an
right.
accurate quarterback if he's got time in the backfield. So I think really it's going to be the defense. And like you and I talked about, your best chance to win is if you have a great quarterback and you have a great defense. If you win in
Yep.
those two categories on the D line, the front seven can mask the secondary to a certain extent. If they're putting a
Yep.
lot of pressure on, they can mask the secondary. So I think that's going to be, and if you got ball control on that offense, time of possession, I think is going to be very important also in this game. And special teams. What are your thoughts on the special team? I have no concern on the special teams.
No, I don't. I don't. I think that our kicking game is pretty solid. I think our kicker would be a junior this year.
Yep.
And he's pretty accurate, so I don't have any concerns on that. I don't know who's going to be our punt returners or kickoff returners. I don't I don't know who that's going to
I
be.
think the punt
Uh,
returner is going to be Restrepo. And the
you
reason
think
I say
so?
that is because,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
it's too big a game to take a chance and put somebody who's not sure-handed back there
yeah.
just to pick up an extra 5 yards or 10 yards or 15 yards. Kickoff, that's different. I think you may see Chris Johnson in the kickoff return.
Maybe.
Yep. So anyway, my brother, God bless you. Please like and share and subscribe to our channel. Send us some comments. We're asking you guys, what are your thoughts? What do you think the score is going to be? Who do you think the MVP of the game is going to be? Who do you think is going to be the outstanding defensive player? Who do you think is going to be the outstanding offensive player? Give us your score prediction down at the bottom, and we'll be sure to get back to you. God bless you guys, and go the U in
Let's go,
Florida.
Canes.
We'll
Let's
bring
go.
back the win. God bless you
All
guys.
right.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate you.
All right.
I know you're traveling, and I appreciate you taking the time. God bless you.
All right.